शिक्षा स्कोप में आपका स्वागत है. A document drafted in 1950 cannot govern the modern world without breaking. To survive, it must evolve. The mechanism to upgrade the Indian Constitution is isolated to a single framework, Article 368. Borrowed from South Africa, it sits alone as the only article inside Part 20. This visual shows how the difficulty scales. Passing basic functions and budgets require only a simple majority, half the votes. But structural changes require a special majority, bumping the requirement up to approximately 66% of the vote. When decisions impact the federal structure of the whole nation, the strictest process triggers. A special majority in parliament is no longer enough. It also requires the consent of at least half the state assemblies. The bureaucratic reality is that not every attempt survives this gauntlet. This funnel diagram illustrates the difference between a proposal and a success. For example, it took the 122nd proposed bill to successfully pass the 101st Amendment. This tiered difficulty is deliberate. It protects the democratic core from impulsive changes, while leaving a clear path open for necessary upgrades. Immediately after independence, the physical map of India had to be aggressively reorganized. The existing borders simply didn't work for the new nation. The First Amendment arrived in 1951 to initiate land reforms and abolish the zamindari system. But as these icons show, royals found a loophole. They protected their wealth by converting palaces into legal trusts and acting as trustees. Driven by the Fazl Ali Commission, the Seventh Amendment initiated a massive reorganization. Look at this transition. It abolished the arbitrary A, B, C, D categorization of states and legally redrew the map based on linguistic borders. The borders expanded outward too. The 10th Amendment formally integrated Daldra, while the 12th Amendment absorbed Goa, Daman, and Diu, finally liberating that land from Portuguese control. To counter external geopolitical threats like the five-finger policy, the Constitution allowed for strategic integration. Sikkim was first designated an associate state via the 35th Amendment to build trust, before being granted full statehood through the 36th. This map shows the result of the 18th Amendment. To accommodate distinct geographic and linguistic populations, the large Pepsu state was fractured into Punjab, Haryana, and Himachal Pradesh, with Chandigarh designated as a shared union territory. In the modern era, the 100th Amendment ratified a land boundary agreement that exchanged enclaves between India and Bangladesh, resolving a complex territorial puzzle. The physical map of India was never static. The Constitution's flexibility provided the state a legal mechanism to absorb geopolitical shocks and cultural divides. Moving past physical borders, the Constitution also had to expand its recognition of the diverse populations living within them. There is a mathematical formula for how recognized languages were added. The 21st Amendment plus the 71st Amendment equals the 92nd. Following this sequence, sets of regional languages were sequentially granted constitutional recognition. This timeline tracks SC/ST reservations. Originally designed in 1950 to last only 10 years, the mandate has been continually extended by acts like the 8th Amendment, and most recently the 104th Amendment, stretching it out to 2030. The 103rd Amendment introduced a new demographic category. It allocated a 10% reservation based on economic status for the general category, known as the EWS. To ensure structural legal protection, specific constitutional commissions were established over time. The 65th created the SC Commission, the 89th the ST Commission, and the 102nd established the OBC Commission. In 2002, the 86th Amendment elevated primary education to a fundamental right, inserting it directly into Article 21A. Collectively, these amendments prove that the document acts as an expanding umbrella, systematically bringing marginalized and diverse identities into the formal legal fold. But there is a danger in this system. When a single party controls the center and enough states, the amendment process can be weaponized. The 42nd Amendment of 1976 centralized power to the Prime Minister, blocked judicial review, and extended the Lok Sabha term from 5 to 6 years. The pushback was swift. The 44th Amendment systematically dismantled those overreaches, reverting the terms and restoring power to the courts, though it also demoted the right to property to a legal right.
Amendments were also used to correct politician behavior and electoral mechanics. The 52nd stopped opportunistic party hopping, the 61st lowered the voting age to 18, and the 84th froze seat counts until 2026. To curb political appeasement, the 91st Amendment legally mandated that the total size of the Council of Ministers cannot exceed 15% of the Legislative House. Power was also decentralized downward. The 73rd and 74th Amendments established rural panchayats and urban municipalities, forcing authority out of the capital and into local hands. A direct clash of authority occurred during the 99th Amendment. The government attempted to replace the judicial collegium, but the Supreme Court struck the entire proposal down as unconstitutional.
The power to amend is a double-edged sword. It can centralize authority rapidly, but the system relies on that same power to self-correct. Remember the toughest amendment process we looked at earlier, the one requiring a special majority plus the consent of at least half the states? The 101st Amendment, GST, is a byproduct of this process. To replace taxes like VAT, the center and states negotiated a compromise. This split tax architecture manifests that teamwork. An 18% bracket perfectly splits into 9% center and 9% state. Shared power coded into law. The Indian Constitution functions as a living framework, capable of being patched and upgraded to ensure the survival of the Republic. अगर आपको ये कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल मैकेनिक्स का ब्रेकडाउन पसंद आया तो वीडियो को लाइक करें, अपने दोस्तों के साथ शेयर करें और ऐसे ही इन डेप्थ वीडियोस के लिए शिक्षा स्कोप को सब्सक्राइब जरूर करें। मिलते हैं अगले एपिसोड में।